My name is Scarlett Roberts. I'm 36, a single mom from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I never imagined my own younger brother would do this to me. My younger brother emptied my bank accounts and disappeared with his girlfriend. I was so worried and heartbroken until my 10-year-old son said, "Mom, don't worry. Let me show you this." Then a few days later, my brother called in a panic. From the time I was a teenager, I pretty much raised Noah after our parents split. I juggled part-time college classes with multiple jobs, just to keep a roof over our heads and make sure he had a shot at a better life. Years later, after my divorce from Tyler left me starting over with my son Sebastian, I finally clawed my way to some stability. I worked my way up at a local bank, bought a modest house in the suburbs, and slowly built $55,000 in savings money meant for Sebastian's future emergencies and my retirement. It all vanished in a single weekend while I was away at a conference. Noah and his girlfriend Brooke had been staying over to watch Sebastian. When I got back, the house was quiet, their things were gone, and my account showed zero. I was devastated until Sebastian looked at me that night with those serious eyes and said the words that flipped everything. "Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for what happened next. If this already has you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the rest of this story is wild and you won't want to miss how it ends." Growing up in Grand Rapids wasn't easy after our parents split when I was 17. The divorce came out of nowhere for me, turning our once stable home into something fragmented and painful. Arguments had been building for years, but when it finally happened, it felt like the ground disappeared beneath us. My father, Anthony Cooper, didn't stick around long in the cold Michigan weather he always complained about. He moved to Florida within months, chasing warmer days and a new beginning with a woman he met shortly after the papers were signed. He remarried fast, building a life down south where palm trees replaced snowstorms, and his contact with me faded to occasional holiday cards. With my younger brother Noah, who was only 9 at the time, it was different. Dad called him more regularly, sending birthday money or excuses for missed visits, always finding ways to defend whatever Noah needed. My mother, Jocelyn Wright, stayed in Michigan, renting a small place not far from our old house, but the fight seemed to drain her energy. She worked long hours at a factory job, coming home exhausted and withdrawn, leaving the day-to-day parenting mostly to me. The favoritism toward Noah became impossible to ignore in those years. As the only boy and the baby of the family, he got the softer treatment, extra allowances from Dad when he asked fewer chores from Mom because he's had it rough enough with the divorce. I'd hear her make excuses for his bad grades or messy rooms, saying boys needed more freedom while I was expected to step up without complaint. It stung deeply, feeling like my efforts went unnoticed, but I swallowed it because someone had to keep things running smoothly for all of us. Taking on that role meant putting my own dreams on hold in ways I didn't fully grasp at the time. I knew education was my way out, so I enrolled in community college part-time, squeezing in classes around everything else. To cover bills, groceries, and Noah's school supplies, I juggled several jobs that fit a teenager's schedule. Summers meant waiting tables at busy lakeside restaurants where tourists flooded in, dealing with demanding orders and sore feet for tips that barely covered gas. Weekends brought retail shifts at big box stores, folding clothes, managing returns, and smiling through rude customers until closing time. Evenings often turned into tutoring sessions, helping neighborhood kids with algebra or essay writing in the public library until it closed. Life became a relentless cycle of responsibility. I'd rush home from class or work to make dinner, help Noah with homework he didn't want to do alone, and handle laundry or bills Mom left piled on the table. The harsh Michigan winters made it all harder, with heavy snow blanketing everything from November to April, roads icy and treacherous for my old car. Noah spent more nights at my tiny apartment than at Mom's because her heat was unreliable and the place felt lonely. I'd shovel the walk before dawn, scrape ice off the windshield, drive him to school, then head to my shift only to return and study late into the night with books spread across the kitchen table, a mug of cheap coffee. My only company as wind rattled the windows. There were moments of quiet doubt when exhaustion hit hardest, like collapsing on the couch after Noah finally asleep, wondering if I'd ever catch up or if this was all my life would be. But pushing through for him kept me going, packing his lunches, attending his parent-teacher conferences when Mom couldn't, celebrating his small wins like making the soccer team. It wasn't perfect, but it built a bond I thought was unbreakable, one where my sacrifices would mean something in the end. Years passed in that grind until I met my ex-husband Tyler at a community event. He worked in construction, seemed grounded and appreciative of my determination. We dated steadily, married in a simple ceremony, and soon welcomed my son Sebastian into the world. Holding him for the first time brought a warmth I'd craved amid all the hardship, a new purpose that made the past struggles feel worthwhile. But the marriage cracked under pressures I didn't see coming, ending when Sebastian was still toddler age, after Tyler's infidelity came to light. By the time I finally graduated, years behind my peers, the diploma in my hand represented more than a degree. It was proof of resilience through everything thrown at me. After the divorce, I had to start all over again, but at least I now had my degree to build a real career. Once I finally had my degree and started building a real career, things slowly got better. Starting at the bottom as a teller in a busy branch downtown felt like a fresh beginning, even if the hours were long and the initial pay modest. I handled endless lines of customers depositing checks or withdrawing cash, learning to spot fraud attempts and balance drawers perfectly at the end of each shift. My focus on accuracy and friendly service caught the eye of supervisors, leading to small recognitions like Employee of the Month, which boosted my confidence after years of feeling behind. As Sebastian grew, I poured everything into providing for him while advancing at work. Overtime became routine, taking on extra shifts or covering for colleagues to show reliability. Soon, I earned a promotion to personal banker, advising clients on loans and investment options, building relationships that turned one-time visitors into regulars. The responsibility weighed heavy at times, especially coming home, tired to a young child needing dinner and bedtime stories, but seeing his smile made the late nights worthwhile. Management training followed, where I led team meetings and resolved complaints, honing skills that prepared me for bigger roles. Reaching branch manager marked a turning point I had dreamed about during those tough earlier years. Running the entire operation, from hiring staff to meeting sales goals and ensuring compliance, brought a sense of authority and stability. The salary increase allowed breathing room in the budget, no longer scraping by paycheck to paycheck. I celebrated quietly by treating Sebastian to a weekend at a local zoo, watching his excitement over the animals, and feeling proud that my efforts were paying off for us both. That financial progress let me focus on long-term security in ways I couldn't before. I purchased a cozy house on the outskirts of Grand Rapids with enough space for Sebastian to have his own room and a backyard for playing catch on summer evenings. The pride of homeownership hit me strongly the day we moved in, unpacking boxes, while he explored every corner with wide eyes. From there, I disciplined myself to save aggressively, cutting unnecessary expenses like eating out or new clothes, directing funds into 3 dedicated accounts. One grew steadily for Sebastian's future education, another served as a safety net for unexpected repairs or medical bills, and the third built toward retirement so I wouldn't face the same struggles later in life. Watching those balances climb to a combined $55,000 over consistent years felt like victory. Each deposit a step away from the uncertainty of my past. Noah's path contrasted sharply with mine during that time. He graduated college but struggled to hold steady employment, jumping from sales roles to warehouse positions, often quitting when things got demanding or the commute too far. His spending habits didn't help, prioritizing gadgets or nights out over building reserves. A couple incidents stood out where he reached out for help, once needing money to cover overdue rent after losing a job, suddenly another time for a large car repair that left him stranded. Mom frequently inserted herself into those situations, phoning me with pleas, like, "Help him out a little more, he's your brother and going through a rough patch." I wired the funds those times, though. Doubt crept in with each transfer, knowing it delayed my own goals slightly. Over months, I started responding with softer limits, encouraging him to create a budget or seek career counseling, hoping it would encourage independence without cutting him off entirely. Still, I held on to hope that Noah would find his way soon, especially when he started mentioning someone new in his life. About 18 months ago, Noah showed up with someone new in his life. He arrived at my door one weekend afternoon looking more excited than I'd seen him in years, with a woman by his side I'd never met before. My brother's girlfriend, Brooke Bell, smiled brightly as they stepped inside, her handshake firm, and her questions coming quickly about the house and how I'd managed to buy it on my own. Something about her curiosity felt off from the start, the way she scanned the rooms and asked detailed follow-ups on my job at the bank, probing about promotions or benefits like she was calculating something. It left a subtle unease in me, a quiet voice, wondering if her interest was genuine or aimed at what I had built. Mom, on the other hand, loved her right away. The next time Jocelyn called, she gushed about how Brooke would be good for Noah, helping him settle down and think about the future instead of drifting from job to job. Hearing that made me second-guess my instincts, pushing the doubt aside, because I wanted to believe in this positive change for him too. Family had always meant supporting each other through rough patches, and if Brooke brought stability, maybe my worries were unfounded. Sebastian reacted differently from the moment he met her. He was quieter than usual during their visit, sticking close to me instead of chatting like he normally did with guests. One evening after they left, he tugged at my sleeve and said straight out, "I don't like Aunt Brooke, Mom. She looks at our stuff weird, like she's counting it or something." His words hit me hard, coming from a kid who usually warmed up to everyone, but I brushed it off as jealousy over sharing Noah's attention, or just childish imagination. I hugged him and explained that grown-ups sometimes ask questions to get to know people better, assuring him everything was fine. Looking back, that dismissal gnaws at me, a pang of guilt for not listening closer to his intuition when mine was whispering the same thing. As Brooke became a regular fixture in Noah's life, spending more weekends at my place or joining family dinners, Sebastian often had his tablet out for games or drawing when they were around. A few times he accidentally left the recording on after filming himself playing or making short videos for fun, forgetting to stop it when Brooke and Noah started talking nearby. Those forgotten recordings captured conversations in the background that he only discovered later when reviewing his files to delete old clips. In one instance, he had been recording a quick video of his Lego creation in the living room when Brooke and Noah sat down close by, discussing money matters without noticing the device was still running. Sebastian only found it days later, hearing things that made his unease deepen. The clips revealed Brooke manipulating Noah with the old insurance fraud incident from his early 20s, the one where he signed false papers for a friend claiming benefits after a minor accident. She brought it up subtly in one of the accidental recordings, using it to pressure him into her plans, while framing herself as the only one who could keep it hidden. Despite the growing concerns, the pull of family loyalty remained strong. Though I felt some worry, I still agreed when Noah offered to help watch Sebastian during my upcoming work trip. That spring, when I had a big banking conference in Chicago, it seemed like the perfect time for Noah to help watch Sebastian. The event was a major one for my career, with workshops and networking that could open doors for further advancement, and the timing aligned with a school break for Sebastian. Michigan weather still carried a chill, even as flowers began blooming, making the idea of leaving him with family feel safer than hiring a sitter. Noah had been enthusiastic about the offer, insisting he and Brooke could handle things easily for the few days I'd be gone, giving me a chance to focus without worry. I booked an early flight out of Grand Rapids, arriving in Chicago with enough time to check into the hotel and prepare for the first session. The conference started strong, filled with presentations on industry trends and panel discussions, where I contributed ideas from my branch experience. Between meetings, I checked in with Sebastian through video calls, hearing his excited updates about games with Noah and meals Brooke prepared. Everything sounded normal, easing any lingering hesitation I had about the arrangement. On the second day, during a short break between seminars, I opened my banking app to transfer some funds for conference expenses. The balances loaded slowly, and when they appeared, my heart stopped. All three accounts showed zero. The college fund for Sebastian, the emergency savings, the retirement nest egg I'd built so carefully over years, emptied completely. My hands trembled as I refreshed the screen multiple times, hoping for a glitch, but the numbers stayed the same. Panic rising, I immediately called the bank's fraud line from a quiet hallway, providing details while my voice shook, confirming unauthorized transfers had occurred over the past 48 hours. Trying to stay calm, I dialed Noah's phone repeatedly, then Brooke's, but both went straight to voicemail. Messages went unread, building a knot of dread in my stomach as the conference continued around me in a blur. I excused myself from the afternoon sessions, pacing the hotel room while contacting the bank again for more transaction details, learning the withdrawals originated from my home IP address. The realization hit like a wave. Someone with access to my passwords and devices had done this while I was away. I cut the trip short, booking the earliest flight back to Grand Rapids that evening, spending the hours in the airport terminal, numb with disbelief and growing anger. The plane ride felt endless, my mind racing through possibilities I didn't want to accept. Landing late, I drove home through dark streets, still carrying spring dampness pulling into the driveway with a sinking feeling. The house looked ordinary from outside lights on timer as I'd set them, but stepping inside revealed the truth. The guest room where Noah and Brooke had left their bags was stripped bare, clothes and toiletries gone without a trace. No note on the counter, no text explanation, just silence echoing in spaces that suddenly felt violated. I searched drawers and closets, frantically confirming their sudden departure. The betrayal settling heavy as I realized what they'd taken went far beyond money. Sebastian was already home, sitting quietly in the living room when I walked in. I called the police right away to report the theft and disappearance. The dispatcher took my details over the phone, noting the family connection and advising that an officer would follow up soon, but for now, to secure the house and avoid touching potential evidence. After hanging up the call, Sebastian pulled me aside in the living room. That first night back home, Sebastian pulled me aside in the living room. The house felt unnaturally quiet after everything I'd discovered, the kind of silence that presses in and makes your thoughts louder. He hesitated at the doorway for a moment, clutching his tablet close to his chest, before coming over and sitting beside me on the couch. At 10 years old, he shouldn't have to carry this kind of burden, but the look in his eyes told me he had been carrying it for longer than I realized. He placed the device on the coffee table between us and opened a folder he'd named simply Proof, his small fingers moving with purpose across the screen. Sebastian started by explaining how it all began, speaking softly but steadily, as if he'd rehearsed the words in his head many times. He told me he first grew suspicious when Brooke began asking him questions during their visits, things about my work schedule or how I managed bills as a single mom. He often had his tablet out for games or drawing, and a few times he accidentally left the recording on after filming himself or making short videos for fun. Those forgotten recordings captured conversations in the background that he only discovered later when reviewing his files. One particularly clear clip came from the kitchen one afternoon while I was at work. Sebastian had been recording a short video of himself making a snack, propping the tablet on the counter to show his cooking show for fun. He forgot to stop it when Brooke and Noah sat down nearby, and it picked up Brooke talking about helping Noah with a new business venture that could change everything for the family. She asked if I'd ever mentioned passwords or account pins for emergencies, framing it as caring concern. The recording continued with Brooke laughing it off and revealing more about needing quick access to funds before opportunities disappeared. Noah stood nearby, nodding along without protesting, his discomfort visible, even in the grainy video. Another accidental recording from the living room happened when Sebastian was building a pillow fort, leaving the tablet inside to film his fort tour for a school project. He didn't realize it was still running when Brooke and Noah settled on the couch close by, discussing past deals she'd been part of and how easy it was to move money between accounts with the right information. The audio caught Brooke's casual mention of changing names or locations if things got complicated, with Noah agreeing quietly in the background. Hearing that part broke something in me, a deep ache for the brother I thought I knew. As we went through the files, Sebastian shared how he stumbled upon the bigger picture entirely by accident. One of the recordings caught Brooke on a phone call, mentioning her old name Lauren in passing when talking to someone else. Curious about the name, he overheard Sebastian later searched it while looking up something unrelated on my old laptop, maybe a character from a game or show, and public records popped up linking Lauren Harper to fraud cases that matched Brooke's appearance and methods. He saved the screenshots, quietly piecing it together over a few days, without telling me until everything became too much to hold in. The thoroughness came from chance more than planning, but it was enough to expose the full deception. Holding him close afterward, I felt a surge of emotions I'd been too numb to access earlier: gratitude that his curiosity had protected us when mine failed, sorrow for the innocence this experience stole from him, and a fierce resolve to see justice done. Those accidental recordings and discoveries weren't planned detective work. They were a child's innocent habits turning into a lifeline that refused to let his family fall apart without a fight. The next day, I gathered everything into a secure drive and headed straight to the police station, Sebastian insisting on coming along to explain his part if needed. The detective took us seriously this time, watching the key clips in full and noting how the recordings had captured conversations naturally. He ran Lauren Harper's name through databases, confirming active warrants and patterns matching our case exactly, then assured me they'd coordinate interstate efforts immediately. With that evidence in hand, I knew the police would have to move fast. Just a few days after handing over all the evidence, the detective called with news from Florida. His voice carried a sense of urgency as he explained that local authorities had located Noah and Brooke at a budget motel near the coast, not far from where Dad lived. They had been taken into custody without incident, caught off guard while checking out with packed bags, apparently planning to move again. The update brought a rush of relief mixed with fresh pain, knowing the chase was over, but the confrontation ahead would test everything I thought I knew about family. Noah's call came that same evening from the county jail, his number showing as restricted on my phone. When I answered, his voice cracked, immediately panicked and pleading in a way I'd never heard from him before. He poured out apologies between sobs, insisting he never meant for things to go this far, and that Brooke had convinced him it was only temporary borrowing until her big deal paid off. He repeated over and over that he'd been scared to say no, trapped by threats of exposure or abandonment, painting himself as the victim caught in her web. Listening to him beg for help, promising to pay back every cent if I just spoke to the prosecutors, stirred a complicated ache: part sympathy for the brother I'd protected so long, part anger at how easily he shifted blame without owning his choices. The calls from Mom started almost immediately after her messages, flooding my voicemail with tearful pleas to think about family and forgive Noah's mistake. She left long voicemails describing how broken he sounded when she spoke to him, reminding me of the little boy I used to care for, and asking how I could let him face consequences alone. Dad followed with texts and calls from Florida, his tone more direct, saying, "Boys make errors under bad influence," and that dropping charges would be the right thing for blood relations. He even suggested flying up to talk in person, arguing that real families stick together through hard times, no matter what. Each message chipped away at old loyalties, forcing me to confront how their favoritism extended even now, prioritizing Noah's comfort over the damage done to Sebastian and me. The guilt trips felt familiar from years past, but this time the stakes were different. Our security destroyed trust, shattered beyond quick repair. I responded to none at first, needing space to process the wave of emotions crashing through me, from fury at their blindness to sorrow for the family unit that no longer existed in any healthy form. When I finally returned, Mom's call, my voice stayed steady as I explained the evidence was undeniable, and the decision to press charges wasn't revenge, but protection for my son. She cried harder, accusing me of being cold and tearing the family apart, but I held firm, saying, "Love doesn't mean excusing harm." Dad's conversation went similarly, his frustration turning to disappointment in me for not handling it privately, yet I refused to budge, emphasizing that consequences were necessary for any chance of real change. The preliminary charges came through soon after Brooke, facing multiple counts of fraud and theft, with her prior record aggravating the case, while Noah was charged as an accomplice, given his direct involvement in accessing the accounts. Hearing the formal terms made the reality sink deeper, a final acknowledgement that the brother I'd sacrificed for had chosen a path leading here. After those calls, I knew the long-term consequences would stretch far beyond the arrests. In the months after the arrests, the real damage to our family became clear. Deciding to cut off Noah completely wasn't a snap choice made in anger. It came after sleepless nights, weighing every memory against the reality of what he'd done. I blocked his number, deleted old messages, and made it clear through the court process that no contact would happen. Visits or letters weren't options. The betrayal ran too deep to risk reopening wounds for Sebastian or myself. That finality brought a strange mix of grief and relief, mourning the brother I'd known, while accepting he no longer existed in the same way. The same boundary extended to Dad and Mom when their attempts to pull me back into the old dynamic persisted. Despite blocking them after repeated pleas to forgive for family's sake, they still tried through mutual acquaintances or unexpected emails, defending Noah as misguided rather than accountable. I stopped responding entirely, recognizing that their ongoing favoritism enabled the problems and would only drag us backward. The silence that followed felt heavy at first, holidays approaching without the usual calls, but it also created space for healing without constant reminders of disappointment. Financial recovery started slowly but steadily with the court's restitution order. A portion of the stolen money came back through seized assets, enough to rebuild the emergency fund and keep Sebastian's college savings on track, though not everything. My promotion at the bank helped too, bringing a higher salary that eased daily pressures and allowed small treats again, like weekend trips to Lake Michigan beaches during warmer weather. Watching those account balances grow once more restored a sense of control. I'd lost, a quiet reminder that hard work could rebuild what was taken. Sebastian changed in subtle, profound ways through it all. He carried himself with more maturity, helping around the house without being asked, and opening up about his feelings in ways he hadn't before. We talked openly about trust and boundaries, turning the pain into lessons he could carry forward. Seeing him thrive in school and coding club filled me with pride, knowing his strength had protected us when I couldn't see the danger. Lisa Gray, my closest friend, became an anchor during the hardest stretches. We met for long walks in Grand Rapids parks as leaves turned color, sharing coffee on benches, while Sebastian played nearby, her listening ear providing the support no blood relative could offer then. Those conversations helped process the grief, reinforcing that chosen family often proves stronger than biology. Brooke ended up with substantial prison time given her record, while Noah received probation with strict restitution requirements that would stretch years. Those outcomes felt just closing a chapter without room for second chances. Looking back, the greatest lesson was recognizing that love sometimes means walking away to protect your peace, no matter how painful the cut. I never forgave that kind of betrayal, and it was the right decision I ever made. Thank you for sticking with this story. To the end, it means a lot that you took the time to listen. If anything here resonated with you, whether it's about family boundaries or finding strength in tough times, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Share what stood out or if you've faced something similar. Your stories matter too.